Hey, Galen.
Oh no, what is it today? Are we going to P3S? I don't want to go to P3S.
Actually, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's about time we talked about the Endwalker OST, since the first patch just came out.
Finally. All right, here we go. Welcome everyone to the Music Arcade Endwalker Special. Hello everyone, I'm Galen the Sound Guy Firestone.
I'm Ranakel, and this isn't anime.
This is not anime, and we are back, welcoming back our friend Sam, aka Zeral, coming back to join us for this episode. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here for this because I've been excited to be able to talk about all of this.
We have been trying to put this together for a while.
Black Mage Gang unites!
Oh no.
Well, as a person who started the game out on Black Mage Gang Unite,
Yeah.
Cast bars can buzz off.
I just got it to 90 today. It was great.
Ooh.
Congrats.
Great.
I actually,
Amazing.
I
And I
almost had...
switched off to Ninja for the last trial, the last extreme, because it's basically demands you run half a marathon for each mechanic.
It's a lot of running. That one is not Black Mage friendly. I haven't cleared it yet, but I've done some attempts, and it's not.
Hopefully
one of the many things...
you'll at least be summoner or scholar friendly, because that's where I'm going in on.
I'm just gonna stick with my Gunblade. I like my Gunblade too much. Anyways, so we first started bouncing this idea around way back when Sam, who clearly doesn't listen to the podcast enough to know this, nearly sent me into a rage, trying to cheer me up by sending me a link to the vinyl of the Endwalker single. And I immediately go, vinyl, how dare. And I try not to say that because I totally get you're being nice, but at the same time, like, it's vinyl. Ugh. I'll go into a very brief explanation why I don't like vinyl. One, it's fake low end. Two, it warps very easily. Three, the technology is just really outdated and bad. It just doesn't sound objectively as clean or open or contains all the proper frequencies. There's a lot of people who like it for nostalgia reasons, but you're basically just putting a filter on clean audio, which as someone who works in clean audio really does not appreciate. So, like, for a lot of nostalgia people, it's like, but it sounds so historical. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool and all, but I need audio that's actually the cleanest possible reproduction of that audio. And just objectively, vinyl is not that. Records are not that. So, vinyl and I have a very trepidatious relationship. Cassette's better, CD's even better than that. Now we're in high-quality digital audio, which, man, I have songs that are like 35 gigabytes of how clean that is. I don't recommend anyone else do that. That's an orchestra session, but, like, you can do that.
My parents got a vinyl player, and I was like, it was for, like, some records that they had, like, stored away. I'm like, that's great. It's great. What else are you going to use that for?
Nice. Yeah, the only vinyl I even owned was sent to me by mistake. It was great.
I didn't say that out loud because it would feel awkward, but
I mean,
especially since it was a birthday present.
Oh yeah, no. If people, I'm not going to begrudge anyone who likes audio, but I am going to say that if it's someone saying it sounds better, I can say that objectively that's not accurate. Yeah, no. The only vinyl record of any kind that I possess, I ordered the Blu-ray of a Nier concert, and they sent me the vinyl instead. And I was like, this is not a Blu-ray, but I'm not returning this because this is actually limited edition, so now it's a collector's and I'm just going to hang on to it. And I did. And that's the last we will be talking about Nier for most of this conversation. It will actually come into play towards the end. We're going to be talking about something that Nier crossed over with, which is FF14. Just, last expansion, not this one. We're going to be talking about this expansion.
So, where should we start? I think that, if we're going to start at the beginning of everything, let's talk about Footfalls.
Let's talk about Footfalls.
Let's talk about Footfalls. It's an okay song. I think it's okay. It's It's not as good as Tomorrow and Tomorrow or any of the Shadowbringers main themes. The Shadowbringers expansion had like the best main themes.
Yeah. I think that this was more of a culmination of
Yes,
themes rather
okay.
than a
Yeah, because here's my
definitive theme.
take. Here's my take. It's 5 pretty decent songs.
Yeah, that sums it up.
Yeah.
And you get bits and
Also,
pieces of those songs. Sorry, go on.
Also, I just listened to it without the opening cutscene voiceover. Well, the cinematic cutscene voiceover. And it really shows how much there are completely empty spaces to let those voiceover work.
Yeah.
And without them, the song has gaps.
Yeah. That tracks. It's a very cinematic, like, score kind of song, which, makes sense considering. And they use bits and pieces of those songs very well in other parts of the game, but I don't know. Footfalls has just never connected with me in any real way.
I will say that I had a today I learned kind of thing when I was looking at music stuff.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I found out the reason it's called Footfalls.
Do tell.
Is there a mention of Footfalls in the Ash?
No. It's called Footfalls because Footfalls is the place where Vesper Bay is. Where the Scion's original place is, where it all began.
Where we haven't been since, like, other than a couple of cutscenes where they were nice enough to actually teleport us there, ARR. Well, no, we went there briefly in Heavensward.
There was also a lot of Prey Return shenaniganry.
Indeed.
Too much.
But yeah, I will say this song's biggest claim to fame is how cool the Stormblood theme song passage is.
Yes! Oh my god.
I'm like the weirdo who doesn't actually like that part, because I was more of a fan of that one kind of in an orchestral vibe, and then they just make it a rock thing, and I'm just like, this doesn't work for me.
I just like guys that shout about storms of blood.
Fair.
The Heavensward section into the Stormblood section was pretty hype.
Yeah.
At least for me, I felt.
Yeah, I liked the Heavensward section a lot better. Yeah, no, Footfalls is... We will be talking about this as well, but it was just really just an almost medley of prior songs instead of trying to be its own beast, and even when it was its own beast, I feel like those snippets get used better elsewhere.
Actually, to avoid 1,000, we'll talk about it later, I want to talk about it now. So I have taken notes as I listen back to the OST.
Okay.
And I have categorized the songs.
Okay.
And reached interesting scientific conclusions.
Let's hear it.
Okay.
So, we have 4 main types of songs. 1, the flow family of songs.
Right.
2, the footfalls family of songs we can group together to have the 2 main songs of Endwalker families of songs, which total to 21 songs from the soundtrack.
Okay.
Then we have the remix family of songs, which includes tracks from this game but from previous expansions, and tracks from other games. 19 songs. And then the purely originals and remixes of those that debut in this expansion, which is also 19 songs. So overall, amongst 60 songs-ish, you have pretty much 1/3 of each.
That's a pretty good, compositional, that's a good balance. I like that. And that's something this game has been good at.
And it's nice to have a number on how much Soken likes his leitmotifs used 10 different ways.
You can tell a Soken song from a mile away.
Yeah. You can tell it's a Soken song because it's a new song you already heard of 5 times.
Yeah, that was going back in expansion. That was kind of my thought process of Eden. There was exactly one original song in the entire raid tier, and
Yeah,
like
a good one too.
everything. Yeah, it was really good. I like Promises to Keep a lot, but everything else was an internal remix or an FF8 song.
Yep.
All of which were great, by the way. Like
Exactly. That's
yeah.
not a dig. That's
no, none of
an
that is.
observation.
I like how this game likes hitting the nostalgia buttons quite a bit, and
Yeah, and if there's one expansion to do it, it's now.
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, I mean, for the internal ones, yes.
Yes,
they
of course.
started shying away from the external ones towards the back half, which was fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's just the FF4 references that are not going to end.
No, they kind of went away after you left Mare Lamentorium anyway, because after that it was less FF4 and more FF9, and we didn't get a good mix of You're Not Alone, and that still bothers me. Anyway,
Yes.
we needed that. We really needed one of those.
Here's hoping for point 3.
Here's hoping for point 3 or point 2. Oh well, I guess it doesn't matter.
Point 3.
Okay, well, you're sure. We had a quest called You're Not Alone, so they knew what they were
Yes.
referencing. We did not have a song called You're Not Alone, and that makes me sad, because it feels like that's a very good point on it. Skipping ahead, because may as well, since we're talking FF9, there is a really good remix of Hunter's Chance now, though.
It's so good.
It's so good. I was... When it showed the Crystalline Conflict, when it showed the preview and Hunter's Chance started playing, I'm like, you're kidding. This is amazing.
Yeah, and like you get out of your prep start, the gates open, your squad of idiots run forward, and you have going behind you. It's so good.
It's a vibe. It is a power vibe. I love it. It's a great song for that kind of PvP.
Yeah, and then you have Run for the Overtime, whose only problem is that often overtime lasts too long for that song's intensity.
Yeah. Although
I've had 4 minutes of overtime.
oh, nice. They didn't add any new frontline modes, so I'm not sure what else we could really talk about for PvP music.
Alright, one thing I did want to mention for Hunter's Chance specifically is that they've managed to do so good a job at remixing it for this context with its kind of pace and everything, that the part that I love the most from the original isn't there, because I love the heavy piano going.
I was thinking that, yeah.
And it's not there, and I still love the track because it feels different.
Yeah,
it's a different take that doesn't detract from the original.
No,
I love it.
It's a great example of remixing done right.
Yeah.
I found that when Soken gets the chance to remix the PlayStation era, he does a really, really good job. Again, going back to Eden and FF8, I could jam out to that version of
Exactly.
Force Your Way for an Eternity.
Point being, give us Steiner's and Freya's armors for PvP Reworld Season 2, you cowards.
Oh god, I want to hear. Give us Beatrix's. How about that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I was very pleased and very surprised to hear FF9 music in that sequence, especially since PvP has trended towards internal remixing and not Final Fantasy remixing prior to this.
Yeah. Even though Starved is also a very good song, I find.
Which one's Starved?
The Feast one.
I don't think I have ever heard that. I've never done the Feast, so...
I never did Feast either.
It's a reprise of the Fate theme from AR.
From
okay.
Artemis.
Yeah, they do another version of that all over Eureka, so you get used to that song pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we've gone off into PvP land, let's take it back to the beginning. So the first new zone you run into is Charlian, and Charlian has some great city music.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think, my favorite city theme in the game.
I think I still like Crystarium a little better, but, like, they're both really good.
Yeah, it's just pure peaceful energy.
It really is. It's just a really great usage of the music. It's a really cool vibe. You know me and my guitar. I love my Spanish guitar, and it's got that classical Spanish guitar in there.
It's a it's nice and peaceful for like for all of the like hustle bustle that you're doing throughout the story. Getting up to there is just like a moment to relax, a moment of reprieve. Finally.
Which is funny because it's the first city since Yulmore that I think I've wanted to burn to the ground. Like, I am not an anti-intellectual, but I am definitely an anti-pompous jerk, and there's a lot of pompous jerks in Charlian.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, y'all aren't helpful. Get out of my way.
Yeah. Non-aggression in their eyes is in indifference, and
Yeah.
indifference is worse sometimes than choosing a side.
So I would argue that from a personal standpoint, I find that theme to be inappropriate because Charlotte is a place that fills me with rage, and that music does not express rage. This is a me problem, and I understand that.
Yes, it is.
Um,
Also, one of the things I like is that, honestly, the night version of the theme, the Nautilus Noise, isn't even quieter than the day version.
No, it
it's
isn't.
It's just that more stripped down instrumentation.
Yeah.
It gives a nice vibe of a city that kind of lives at its own pace, disregarding petty things like the cycle of the sun, which I relate to on a personal level.
I will say that one of the coolest things when you look at Charlian's theme as a story beat is that it spoils a piece of the story without you even knowing it.
Yeah, exactly, because it's part of the Flow family.
It basically said like the flow is underneath everything that's being presented, which is representative of like Ethereal Sea being
Right.
beneath Charlian.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because it's also, they are all part of this family. 9 tracks in total.
And while we're talking about Charlian, I've got to bring this up. You go into the Baldessian Annex and it starts playing that really nice FF5 remix theme.
Yeah.
That doubles as your in theme.
They will come.
My
Yeah.
God, I need new in themes. I am so happy that in theme exists. It is so much better to listen to than the regular traditional in theme.
The regular traditional in theme is great if you want to actually log out of the game there. Not if you want to go there to set up your glamour, because that's the only place when you can give us armoire in our FC rooms. Give it to us.
Period. I have a house on the beach. I would like to have a glamour chest there.
Look, they say that it's a part of like internal like working from 1.0 framework stuff, but I'm like, you're already fixing some of that stuff by.
They can solve this.
Yes, you can solve this.
They've already solved a few things involving this, so
if it takes till 7, if it takes till 7.0, I'll be okay with it. Just let me know that you're working on it.
Please.
Yes. And they've added new functionality in the inn that won't go remiss and won't require being added elsewhere. So I'm all good for that too.
Yeah.
So I'm being told by the chat, this is true, you can also glam in the squadron headquarters, but that's not much more helpful? Really? Like, at least in terms of Limsa Laminsa, where my house is, thus making it the easiest inn to get to, it's about an equal distance between, actually, I think the inn is a little closer to the Aetherite than the squadron headquarters, so...
It's a long bridge.
It's a long bridge. Either way, it's still like a hike, which is silly. It's a long hike from my house, no matter where that is. I would like to be able to change clothes in my house. This is not a relevant conversation. Let's get back to music, please.
Radzatan?
Well, first of all, we have... Which one did you go to first, Thavner or...
I went to Labyrinthos first, because I was really looking forward to Labyrinthos since they first announced it, and I was not disappointed.
Yeah, I think that... So, first of all, the story theme of Spoken Without End, before we go into Labyrinthos, is pretty nice. It's one of the first... I think it's the second Endwalker theme motif that we work with, besides the remix. Well,
The
the beginning,
Footfalls family?
the beginning part of Footfalls, like that you hear on the boat. It's part of the Footfalls family.
Yeah.
Yes. And the flute, like, it's very nice. It's peaceful. It's like, okay, breath of fresh air. Like, oh, we figured out something. Oh, this is something that we're actually working with now. Uh, just
Yeah,
beautiful theme.
it's a nice little progress for story beats. So.
Yeah.
It's good to have those rhythming things.
I'm going to be honest, I have no memory of the Labyrinthos music. It just is not stuck in my head in any real way.
I think one of the reasons for that is that they previewed the theme, and then it was too wacky and everybody hated it. So he stepped down and calmed it a little.
I feel like wacky is kind of a bad fit for Labyrinthos as an area. I was hoping for something that would have kind of a, I don't want to say a sinister vibe, but definitely more of a, like the thing with Labyrinthos is it's essentially a giant doomsday vault in a lot of ways.
Exactly, and the tone is kind of embracing the denial of the situation that Shalayan is pushing for. So, really, that song is propaganda.
Yeah.
It had in a way it does have that kind of like fake smiling face sinister vibe to
Yes.
There's a lot of fake smiling face music in this X-Pack, I've noticed.
Yeah, and that's not even the most catchy propaganda song in this expansion.
No,
but we'll come back
isn't.
to that later.
We will. Okay, so yeah, I don't really remember Labyrinthos that well. Thavnair, on the other hand, I remember it a lot, entirely because there's a passage from that song that sounds suspiciously like Kakariko Village from Zelda.
Well, do we want to do the Thavnair theme, or the thing that happens at the beginning of Thavnair when we get there and have horrible etheric sickness?
Oh,
Shades the light. Oh my god, that was such a great...
It's very anime.
Very anime.
Actually.
It reminds me of a sequence in FF7, actually, where, like, right after all this tense stuff happens, maybe right before, but you're on the boat, you're heading towards, you're heading, I think, out of Junon and off towards the other side of the ocean or whatever.
Yes, I know the song you're talking about. It's difficult to walk on both legs, isn't it?
Yeah. Yuffie gets seasick. That song is playing. It's funny.
Also, Red 13 is in a sailor's costume. Give us that in the remake, you cowards.
I still need to play Intergrade. This is not relevant. Moving on.
I still need to finish Intergrade. This is also not relevant, but...
Yep. So yeah, it reminded me of that song in no small way, which is, that's the tone. It's not that surprising. Yes. Yeah, it was just a goofy, story scene.
Yep. Good character music.
Yep.
But moving actually into Thavnair is gorgeous.
I can't...
It's got vibes.
It's beautiful. I can't be the only one who hears the Kakariko thing, right?
I don't focus on it as much as you do.
Well, the first time I heard it, this is a remix of something. What is this a remix of? And it just keeps running through my head until finally I'm like, Kakariko. And it happened again with the recent dungeon that has that exact same passage in it, but the dungeon is like, dungeon music, so it's a lot heavier. It has a version of that passage in it, and I had the exact same reaction to it. I'm like, this is a remix of something. What is... Oh, right, it's Kakariko, just like Daphne is Kakariko. I'm like, okay, we've been here before. I don't know. It's a fine song, but I cannot get past that, like, borderline crossover sound.
The night theme is great piano work.
Nothing to add to it.
Nothing to add. That is an accurate statement.
So then I'd like to move on to Red Zatan proper, except not Red Zatan proper, because before we get the real theme, we have Twilight Race, which is another take on the alternate music theme before the city is fully unlocked.
Yeah, and that is
certainly weirder than Yulmore.
It's weirder than Yulmore, but I like it way better than Yulmore.
Yes.
And it does definitely fit the atmosphere of everything of, like, a possibly slowly dying trade city.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, the normal themes, I think they would have to hold back on the tone of the normal themes if we were getting into story rather than, because the final theme is just this joyful, energetic, exotic theme that's
bombastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Not too much of a fan of the wacky elephant noise for the night version, but aside from that, very good songs.
I can't say I had a real problem with that personally. I kind of like their use of sound design on that one. I wouldn't call it an all-time favorite or anything, but I certainly do appreciate what they were trying for.
I spent a lot of time in Radzatan due to raiding, so I've grown to be able to vibe to this song a lot.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have some good songs to vibe to, might as well get them in the places you're going to spend a lot of time in.
Yeah. And similarly, the regular battle theme, which you're going to start hearing a lot at this point, is actually good this time, unlike Shadowbringers, where it was really not.
Shadowbringers was frenetic and off.
It was experimental, and Masayoshi Soken has this one guitar tone that he likes that I don't know how anyone else could like, because it's the thing that turned me off of Oblivion, it's the thing that turned me off of a couple other of his songs, and it is front and center in the Shadowbringers battle theme. Right at that intro, I'm like, no, go away. I hate this. I actually turned off the regular battle theme. Yeah, I actually turned off the regular battle theme for a lot of that because I found that tone to be so offensive. Endwalker does not have this problem. It's got this really cool, like, orchestral mix of one of the main themes, and it works pretty well.
Yes. Part of the Footfalls family, it does the job.
It does the job.
Yeah.
It's not, like, the best I've ever heard. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be. It's a normal battle theme.
I think that in terms of battle themes, I think that Stormblood has, like, I've been in the Stormblood areas a fair bit recently, so I think that Stormblood has a pretty good one.
I actually like the variations of the ARR, honestly.
Well, I'm doing the story again, so I'm probably gonna be listening to that a lot, so I'll be
fair enough.
figuring that out.
If we follow story pace, I believe that leads us to
Tower of Zot.
Tower of Zot.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good remix as well.
Very good FF4 remix. Very cool dungeon.
Yes.
Again, as remixes go, like, this is something Soken is really good at. There's only been a couple of his remixes that I've disliked. This is not one of them. This is a very good FF4 mix.
It is just... I'm trying to find the words of, like...
It conveys the ominousness of the structure around you.
Yep.
Even though, like, the inside is, like, expansive, it feels almost like pressing in, claustrophobic in a way of, like...
Stifling.
Yeah,
Stifling's a very good word for it.
And then you get to your first mid-dungeon boss theme, and it's a banger.
It is a good song.
Yeah.
I love how the intro leads into that guitar riff. I like how it feels.
The bass and the guitar really reminded me of Emerald Weapon Phase 2.
Oh yeah. Black Wolf Stalks again.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the same reason I like it too. It's just
that's a good thing.
It's head banging. Just good vibes.
And I'm glad that, unlike for Shadowbringers, they didn't gratuitously replace one of the dungeon themes with a live version yet. I'm sure they would do a pretty sweet live version.
I still have not found that live version in Shadowbringers. I don't know where it is.
The live version is in every dungeon.
They just flat out
They have
swapped
replaced the original with the live version for all of the dungeons, pretty much.
All of the post dungeons, or
no, they retconned it, I believe, for the story dungeons.
I wouldn't have known that because I haven't really I wasn't there for launch.
Yeah, I wonder if, because I started, I think I started basically at the Moogle tomes of 5.2.
I started right as COVID was shutting down my college.
Yeah, same. Roughly around when I started. It would have been February of 2020.
Second week of March for me.
Huh. Anyway, I will have to get a comparison of those two songs later. Not really relevant.
Yeah.
This mini boss, honestly, a live version of this would be pretty good, but it doesn't have vocals, and I don't know if they would necessarily do that without vocals.
Agreed.
Let me tell you, though, the song that's really grown on me is Finality, the dungeon end boss theme. When I first...
It's really... I like Blaze Age better on its own, but I think that it's good that they have this song to reflect the urgency of the situations you're at the end of a dungeon.
Especially
the mini-boss on Blade's Edge is quite good, but when I first heard Finality, it was like, okay, this is alright, but I think I like the mini-boss version better. And much like what happened to me with the Worm's Tale, the more I listened to it, the more I realized that, man, this had something going for it. Then all of a sudden I beat the end of a dungeon boss, the opening horns would start going, and the strings, and I'm just like, I'm banging to it, I'm going. I'm like, alright, here we go, let's do this.
And, with how much all of the end boss of the dungeons in this expansion, are meant to be, just absolutely dangerous things between the Matsuya sisters.
Yeah, I mean, the first two you fight are actual full-on primals, and you're down to four-person party dungeon end bosses on actual full-on primals now.
And that's
where we're at.
And next one's, the equivalent of our first beast.
We believed it was going to be the 83 trial.
No. It wasn't. It was
It wasn't indeed.
Boy, I kind of want to skip to the first trial. I'm not going to, but I kind of want to.
They surprised us with this.
They did.
Yes.
Yoshi did say, "Hey, you're gonna get a big surprise at 83." I'm like, okay. And then
the surprise was Anima Dungeon Boss, which they released it like they released Primals, in the advertising.
Anima Dungeon Boss. And Zodiark first boss.
Yeah.
Let's rewind,
but
though. We're still talking to Zot. Yeah. All right.
Because skipping from Zot to Anima means skipping over the best zone of the expansion.
Agreed. Wholeheartedly.
Also, first of all, this is Thank. From Below, the duty theme for Endwalker.
Oh my god. Everything about the Garlemald sequence, just as a fan of narrative, made me happy. And starting with that one, we get the stealth sequence with Thancred sneaking through the base with this really cool duty theme playing.
Gear stuff I've seen in this game.
It
And
was
it's
so
great.
Metal Gear. It was great. And then yeah, it just really
The mass battle around the caravan against the third.
Mm-hmm.
where
And then-
suddenly half of a bunch of job characters who never were voiced before now have voices.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, that was so great. Like,
Apparently, Adam Howlett was sick of playing Lalafell because he stopped playing Pippin and started playing. Adam Howden stopped playing Pippin and started playing Arun Senna of all people.
the only job that I hadn't like picked up or even like started before Endwalker that was like relevant in its story was White Mage, so I was kind of sad.
I had I had my Amaro by then, so I had all of my classes at 80 going into Endwalker, so I knew who all those guys was, and I'm just like, hey folks, how you doing? These are a bunch
Well,
of familiar faces.
I knew who Arun was because of the fact that I have a alt that I have a White Mage on.
The fact that they're like, no, that whole sequence, the opening to Garlemald was everything I wanted out of the Endwalker expansion. That was the absolute just joy of it and everything I was hoping for. It had the sense of tension, it had the great banger music, it had the wonderful area with the wonderful, just dismal, terrifying, like just tense theme. You go into the subway, it has a remix of Praetorium, the song called Penitus, that was really just on point. God, it was good.
Oh
yeah, and the radio. The
What?
radio.
Well, let's work with the Garlemald Day theme first. White Snow, Black Steel.
It's pretty stripped down, but it kinda has to be.
Yeah. They have
The
to kind of
area
show
is ravaged by war.
Yeah, they have to show the utter destruction of it.
Because, like, before you get here, you don't know how much Xenos and Van Daniel's influence has destroyed everything, and now you're seeing
They
destitution.
basically turned an expansion's worth of content into a single area.
I kind of wish that was the whole expansion, but we will get into that conversation later. Yeah, no, I like how I really like how it feels. It's very tense, very like, man, this just feels oppressive, which makes sense. I like the radios.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was such a great bit and used so well.
It was a fantastic use of world building and music.
It's also kind of a turnaround where, on one hand, you had in Stormblood the Imperials reusing what turned out to be a revolutionary hymn to make it a Galleon-like song. And then we have the reveal at the end that it's actually that revolutionary hymn. And on the other hand, now we have what was since 2.0, maybe even 1.x, this Galleon theme that shows the menacing grandeur of the Empire. And instead, it's mellow and kind of miserable and folksy, and yeah, it's very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
It really is just like a tale in itself of the fact that they were once this like the oppressed group, and that like they had their own rallying cry.
Exactly. A hoe they cling to, even when it's past its prime.
Which the name of the Home Beyond the Horizon is terrifyingly poetic.
Yep.
And
then you get on board the Garlemald Express.
Oh yeah.
God, I love this song so much. I love this song so much. I got, really just, the second that, like, synth tone comes in, I'm just like, I'm
Yeah.
already into it. Never mind the concept of the dungeon, which is always a favorite, which is, hey, let's us and a whole bunch of old friends go and beat things up. And I'm like, hi,
Yeah,
guys.
exactly. At first, when I saw the dungeon name, I was like, they're going to make us do a tower and then another tower. It's going to be so samey. No,
really wasn't.
It's
No,
not.
it's not.
I would like to point out that I am probably one of the bigger Stormblood defenders amongst the people I know.
I'm
Yes.
a pretty big Stormblood defender, to be honest.
I mean,
I
the
actually-
Galen area was Stormblood too.
It was Stormblood too, and it just made me
Mhm.
happy inside. And it culminated with, like, you and a bunch of Stormblood characters, Lise,
Yeah.
the Azim Step trio, all busting in. It was
It
so
felt
good.
great.
It felt
great.
really good. The vibe
That
was
area-
just there.
That area is so good. It's also the only part of maybe the entire game when Daniel does some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The part where he kidnaps you and suddenly goes from dressing up as one of you guys to dressing up as a butler to setting you up on a date.
okay, that duty was like
Oh, it was
I forget.
pain.
Did you fail the first time?
I failed the first, second, third time. I was about to win the fourth time and then got disconnected. Had to wait 2 hours to log back in and then succeeded.
I only
That's
failed it
worse.
once, and then I did it again on my first try. I did it again on my second try.
That was the same for me because I was like the first time I was just trying to find the other like where the fuel canisters were.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got very lost.
Like it was only until like I looked off to the side and saw that person like talking.
Yeah. To me, for a lot of reasons, Garlemald was the peak of the expansion. The music being a pretty big factor in that. Also, Tower of Babel having these great, again, FF4 references like Dr. Luge showing up.
Exactly. And
Um,
getting punched in the face.
That was
And get punched in the
great.
face. That was wonderful. And then I know I'm not supposed to talk about gameplay for a second, but I just want to thank them for doing Anima justice. You actually get the second phase, despite
Yes.
it not being a trial boss. Like,
Yeah.
okay, you
If
actually...
they didn't put it in, it would have been unacceptable.
I
Yeah.
agree, and I'm glad they did, and we don't have to yell at them for it. That's all I'm going to say on the
Yes.
matter, because I do not want to take this up with gameplay or story. But yes, they treated Anima well.
Mhm.
And then after Anima, you are off to the moon.
The moon.
The moon!
Which was the biggest like what moments that I think that I had in a while.
I don't actually agree with that at all. They announced that, and I knew they weren't going to announce their final area. I knew they weren't going to announce their final area.
It's fair. Still was kind of wild.
Honestly, what I expected was to have a quick visit there and then have a final visit to the rest of the area at the end of the game. But no, turns out we go way further than that.
We probably should have done your version. The moon, like, you
Hire
get
me,
this...
Square Enix.
I'm sorry?
I said hire me, Square Enix.
Please hire the both of us. Please hire all three of us, all four of us.
Yes,
Let's grab Edie,
please.
too.
I would appreciate being able to be in there for input.
Anyway,
You already have my credentials. I tried to like get hired before.
So yeah,
Ooh.
you have the moon. You have an incredibly floofy dog with the new mount theme, and we'll talk about the new mount theme. But let's just go ahead and talk about the new mount theme. It's a new mount theme. It's our first new mount theme since Heavensward.
Yeah.
It plays on that. It plays on the special edition horse, and I feel like it'll probably play on other future Endwalker non-specific music mounts.
Yeah. And it's a pretty decent theme.
It's a pretty decent
Yeah.
theme. It's a change of pace. I don't think it's
got
necessarily
that
better or
nice
worse than the
heroic
other
feel.
two, but yeah.
Yep.
It's nice and heroic.
Now, this area was littered with the like taking from past internals and externals.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we
Speaking
have
of-
the
Need
We have
Dark
Nif
Waters,
Dark Waters, Saints and Sinners version.
which, God, it's a gorgeous theme.
It's a beautiful
Yes.
theme, and it was used very well for that sequence. We've talked about Neath Dark Waters a lot. I didn't really find anything functionally different between that song and the version from Shadowbringers. You know, it's a great throwback to a great song for good reason. You go outside, you do a bunch of stuff involving shades, you run into the shade of Hythlodaeus again, and that will become relevant again fairly soon, but for now.
I will say that between this, I believe Imagination Duality is played. I remember it right before you meet Vinaz Familiar.
Vinaz Familiar being the poofy dog with the
Yes.
being, for those who don't know what we're talking about, the poofy dog with the cool mount music. Argos, who helps you get around the moon prior to, getting your own flyability.
I think that it was a great use of Imagination Duality in correlation to the villain that we were focusing on.
Yes, Low Rent Kuja. This is where the game starts taking a turn from FF4 to FF9 in a lot of themes, and unfortunately that also includes having a final boss after the final boss, which is to say, Sam, you brought this up earlier, Zodiac level 84 trial, what the heck?
83.
83 or 84, it was early.
I did it with like almost all tanks, it was hilarious.
Let me tell you, that music end caller, that's probably one of my favorite trial themes of the entire game.
Oh yeah.
It is such a good use.
If there was, I think that it was the perfect theme for this, and also I think that they did it right by it being one of the like central themes that they used in the promo trailer.
Yeah, they really use it. It's punchy. It's as enormous as the boss. It's a very good Footfalls version.
It is a very good Footfalls version.
It also sort of like it feels like it echoes in the space that you're actually in during it.
Which is great. I would much rather listen to that than Fandaniel bitching at us about everything again.
The Great Cataclysm, faithfully recreated.
God, stars.
From
broken skies fall tears of flame.
I am so in the immortal words of Dr. McCoy, I'd pay real money if he'd shut up.
All of existence bent to my will.
Now the thing is that one. Okay, we're not
so
talking about this.
So you found it too, I see.
The laundry machine, yeah. Laundry machine meme.
No,
Maybe you sent that to me. I don't know.
The rotate tool.
Oh, the rotate tool one. Yes.
No, I gave you both. I gave you both the laundry machine and the rotate.
I
just have a realization. You know, in the wind PvP map where you have to follow that chocobo indicator to get the black chocobo feather and not take 30,000 damage?
No,
that's the Danger Dorito strat.
Oh my god.
I have not done that, but oh boy.
The Danger Dorito strat is because you can do pretty much every mechanic in that extreme fight by just following one guy.
Following one person. But as long as you are not lagging. If you're lagging, you learn the fight, and then you become the triangle person.
Exactly. You become the Danger Dorito.
But yeah, no, I love this song to death. Great use of chorus, great use of strings. I'm a big fan of the orchestral bombing. I've been very, very open about this thus far. And this one bombs some orchestras, so...
Oh, it does. And a little bit before that, I believe. the FF4 part, we glossed it over, but I just want to say shoutouts for making in that sub-part of that area just Battle 1 from FF4 as just the battle theme.
Actually, no, this is after.
That's right.
You don't
after.
get there until after Zodiac.
No, okay, that's after.
Yep.
Then let's get after.
It was
Unless
just
you have something to add.
it was just the moment after, that we got. I think that right after was either the first moment that we got the despair theme, or we go straight into the Loporrits.
Oh yeah, when you see the planet burning.
4C planet.
Yes.
The Loporrits. This is where the expansion started to go wrong for me, I gotta be honest. But
we had. I will say that
those
the
faux bunnies
Loporrits-
cause of fee problems.
oh my god, they reach so.
I found a
TLDR
species I want to punt more than Lalafels.
They,
And on the
They
moon
had
with theoretically low gravity, that would be one heck of a punt.
but they were there for a long time. They made us retread a couple bits of old ground. Moving on.
We spent way too much time with the Loporrits. I wouldn't have minded them if they were a little shorter of a burst, but during that sequence, it dragged on way too long. If it was cut down by like half.
Battle 1. Welcome to our town and Battle 1, though. Solid choices.
Oh, yeah. No, it was definitely great with the FF4 throwbacks, and they were still trying to convince us this expansion was based on FF4.
It was until the moon.
Yeah, no, once we pass the moon, it switches gears pretty hard.
Yeah, you enjoy your funny times with the pink bunnies? Good. Now, let's see everything burn and have the Vanaspati dungeon theme even out in the field.
Well, I think
Yes.
what comes of despair comes first.
Quite possibly, yes.
Which, to be honest, I think it's a pretty decent, like, oh no theme.
Yes.
It doesn't have a lot to it, but I think that simple is better.
Sometimes
regard.
all you need is voices going, oh, 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 oh.
Good orchestral behind it.
Yes.
I mean, it holds itself well. Then we get to Vanaspati.
Okay.
Okay.
I think actually that's one track I would have loved to show to Edie if he was around there.
Yeah.
He couldn't be there, he couldn't make it, unfortunately.
Yeah, we really wanted to have him here. It's always good to have an outside perspective. All three of us are players, and we like having Eddie to bounce off of. Unfortunately, real life got in the way. So, we'll see him next episode. Anyway, yeah, Vanaspati. Really cool use of Indian-style themes. You can hear a sitar in there pretty good.
Yes.
Just a solid, just angry track for... You know, we were promised the final days. We got the final half an afternoon, but that half an afternoon was pretty intense.
Yeah, and that dungeon itself, it's Holminster Switch too, but I liked Holminster Switch a lot, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with seconds.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, this is where it's going to start a theme of repeating itself. I am going to start complaining about the expansion increasingly more as time goes on. I would make a distinct argument that this is probably the last really good part of the expansion. But
there are, well, in terms of character stuff, there's good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, no, yes, but this is
But
definitely
let's
where
focus on the music.
Let's
Yeah.
start
Let's focus
focusing
on the
on the music. And
Yes.
the music is...
For instance, Elpis and
It's solid.
Theseus Hyperborea are both very interesting key arrangements of the Amaranth theme.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how it was, I like how those were used.
it conveys nicely the whole everybody hasn't been dead for 10,000 years thing.
Yeah. And we get to watch Emmett Selk make a return when he really probably shouldn't have, but he did, and it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a fun character.
He is a
When
fun
I
character.
like him. I like him. I think his goodbye should have been his goodbye.
I agree.
It's kind of like seeing Undertaker's retirement match and then seeing him after that.
It's definitely the like you're looking at him and being like, well, I can't say anything,
And then here comes Hythlodaeus again. Now, on the one hand, I really liked Hythlodaeus, the Shade, and Shadowbringers, and on the other hand, they brought him along with Emmett Selk, and we got to see their friendship, and that was cool.
yeah.
Yes.
On the third hand, this is where we meet the original Fandaniel, who I think I hated pretty much from the first second he showed up on the scene.
Oh, yeah.
You ruined a perfectly good bird, is what you did.
He ruined a perfectly good bird. On the subject of that hecking bird, this is relevant to music, by the way. Rana showed this one off. So once upon a time, they promised us an FF14 guitar. And in the advertisement to that FF14 guitar was that hecking bird.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yes. So, this is the ad for the guitar.
Oh,
Yes.
oh my god.
Yup.
It was right there.
In front of us.
Yup.
The whole time.
That's actually the biggest brain play they've pulled out.
That was a really-
Wow.
Now, I thought, I mentioned this before, but I'll go ahead and talk about this. There is a symphonic metal band that I used to really like. They've sadly broken up over the course of the pandemic, called Delane. And one of their big things was having a hummingbird and modern musical equipment, headphones or whatever, kind of on the same thing. It was one of their like artistic quirks on their album covers. I actually thought this was a reference to that when I first saw it. I'm like, oh, that's a cute Final Fantasy version of Delane, and I know that Yoshi P's a metalhead, so like it is totally not.
It might be both. It might be both.
It might be both, but if so, they really did funny by putting Meteon right there. Anyway.
Do we talk about a couple of like things of the Dynamis theme, the Hopeful Dynamis theme?
Yeah, sure. Dynamis and Flow, because they are both from the same theme, anyway, and this is the part where we have the best installment of Flow in my book.
Yeah, this was the one that that's the one that plays during the solo duty, and I need to do New Game Plus to replay that so I can hear that song again in context.
Yes.
It actually showed up during the credits for me, like right at the end.
Yeah.
Somehow.
It also shows up, indeed, during the credits. So if it's just for the song, it's there. But I understand wanted to replay that because, legit, even though I liked a lot of the part of the expansion, the solo duties are actually the best part
Oh
of
my god.
Endwalker.
I would largely agree with that.
They took put genuine love into those solo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say once we got out of Garlemald, the solo duties are what I was hanging on to the most.
Solo duties and music, probably.
Yes, the music was largely very strong, though be warned, there will be a rant coming up in a future area. So...
Oh, I see what's going to be the problem. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what's coming. Actually, that wasn't even what I was referring to, but I'm like, oh yeah, there's gonna be that again. So, yeah, Elpis and that whole, like, absolute crap story-wise, but very interesting thematically and musically section. Really cool stuff in there. Flow, really good. Probably the most wild and interesting dungeon in the game, if not necessarily my favorite. Really cool music in there as well. craziest trust party you can have.
It's really good.
Yep.
Seeing Emmett Selk as a Dark Knight is fun.
Seeing Hydaelyn as a dancer is fun.
Yeah.
I like having Vana as a dancer. I hate that I have to be a healer to do it. I wish they'd just add those characters to the rest of the trust mode. It's non-canon, so who cares? Just let me have them.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Give dancer healing powers.
Yeah.
I mean, they do DPS
do
Astro, so
they have Y'shtola.
Yeah, also that.
Y'shtola of all the elements.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the end of Elpis is where things really start going wrong plot-wise and musically, because after a bunch of malarkey, you go into the level 89 dungeon at the bottom of Labyrinthos.
Yes.
This
the
is the
dungeon music itself, I like it.
I really didn't. I was very annoyed by this from the second I heard it.
I like it.
Did you expect something maybe lighter?
I didn't expect something lighter. I expect it does that start and stop thing that I hate so much.
Yeah.
I have an issue with staccato and orchestral pieces. It just doesn't. It's just like, please finish a phrase. Please finish a phrase. This makes me antsy. Please finish a phrase.
Also, I was 2 days old when I realized that is a remix of the Labyrinthos theme.
Yep.
Yeah, they like doing that. They like doing
dungeon theme corresponding to the area theme. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
We'll bring up later, on a 6.1 thing.
Well, yeah. Well, I already mentioned the newest dungeon sounding like Thavnair and talking about how it sounds like Kakariko. We already covered that.
Yes.
And
then we have the bosses, and then we have the trial.
Okay, so finally I got the good remix of Answers that I wanted for a very long time.
But why is it in this fight?
I do want to bring up.
Oh, go ahead.
Before we do that, because we're on the topic of Answers, the Answers piano that they specifically used for this expansion.
Yes. I tend to like Answers a lot when Susan Calloway is not singing, and thankfully every version of this is one that she isn't in, so.
Mm-hmm. And the piano version of it is quiet, solemn, making you have that feeling of you're listening in to the last embers of the voice that you've been listening to this whole time.
I still say this should have been the final boss, and not what we got as the actual final boss, and the rage will be coming, folks, so be warned. I am going to be in hardcore rant mode when it comes to, yes, even the music of this next couple of bits. But yes, when you're actually fighting Hydaelyn herself, the music is super good. This should have been the final boss. I stand by that.
I disagree.
Regardless of whether or not we agree, it should have been the final boss, because that's talking about plot, not talking about the actual content. The music is fantastic. This is a very good, pulse-pounding, boss-worthy remix of Answers, which we've needed.
The percussion is amazing.
The percussion's so good.
Also, I think you had the difficulty of a final boss, because sheesh.
She is
that extreme.
No joke.
Yeah.
Then we go. Well, I think that for it gets to the next area, we have to talk about. So, there was the first time that this expansion got me to cry. Was like if it was done even better, this moment would probably seal it as one of the best expansions, one of the best things that they have ever made. But the moment in itself of right after the boss with Flow.
Okay.
Flow is a fantastic song. Flow is a song of a mother telling a child, it's all right. I'm
Yes,
letting you
which
go
is
now.
why they should absolutely have used a flow version for the fight against her versus what we got. As good as it was, I still think that was the wrong move.
I mean, if they made it an actual two-phase fight and had Flow as
Yeah.
the second phase, I think that would have made a little more sense. But
Yeah.
as it was, since it was only a one phase and
And also,
ill-placed locationally in the expansion, I feel like
Answers is still her like theme, but Flow,
But it's also Bahamut's theme.
Yeah, that really annoys me.
yeah, yeah. It was a callback for the sake of callback.
Yes, and we'll get a bit more of that.
Yes.
In, talking about some future music, but
I
for now,
will say I have I am the optimist in this group, so I will have good things to say about things going forward.
well, I will as well.
I will not. Oh boy, yeah.
Okay, so shall we talk about the Ultima Full music progression then?
I think that how they did it was
yes, how they did it was very interesting.
Yes. Why they did it was more questionable. I will agree.
I do agree that Ultima Thule and the Dungeon of Dead Ends was extremely gratuitous, but God, do they know how to hit an emotional.
Boy, do I disagree with that on every conceivable level. Ultima Thule was the place where I was at my highest rage point. I'm just like, none of this is emotionally effective. This is all just the most obvious heartstring tugging on the planet. The music is obnoxious. And then the dungeon is just a bad retread of Amarat with a character who I don't like, don't care about, and want to beat the crap out of.
So
everything about this just didn't work. This almost made me quit FF14. It was so bad. This whole sequence made me almost rage quit.
So we have different opinions.
Yes, we do. Very different.
Quite.
And thing is that I can understand the fact that it doesn't, like, looking at it from a in a hindsight perspective, this person who didn't just spend a literal concerted 5 days work week going through it. I think that it the story beats of Ultimate Thule definitely needed some work. In the moment, I was emotionally invested, and the obvious heartstring tugging was hitting me. But I can understand. Dead Ends didn't. Dead Ends wasn't for me much at all. But I think that as a theme in itself, looking outside of the game, the progression and the final product of Closing the Distance is a fantastic.
I'm inclined. No, just musically, I like the progression on a technical level, but musically, I found it incredibly annoying. I don't like this singer at all. You're gonna find this is another recurring theme for me. And it's fine on a single listen through, but hearing it on repeat, droning on and on and on and on and on. I
don't know, I found the Omega Special Fate, and I still liked it there. It's nice and chill. It's admittedly kind of weird to have the conclusion of what is a very linear zone, probably the most since Azizla.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a culmination point become the theme. But
this was Azizla 2.0.
Yes. But it's kind of long enough that the repetition didn't really get to me.
I can agree. I can agree. I don't think on Galen's side.
I mean,
which is fine. That's
Yeah.
why we have multiple hosts.
yeah, that's
And yeah, I like the way the final day dungeon is also retaking that theme with kind of a way to push you forward.
Yeah, it's a the Dead Ends dungeon is a good way to push you into that dungeon, but it is basically pushing you by like you are begrudgingly being pushed through.
yeah,
Even in character, even in the character of the story of like you are literally like having to sit through Medion's like dronings on about despair in order to actually get up to
yeah.
Medion.
We already had low rent Kuja. Now we have cute Necron spending way too much time on my screen.
What I still want to say for the dungeon theme proper
Yes.
is that they still managed one thing that I don't think can take off the music, is that the dungeon is a miserable plague-ridden place followed by a militaristic conflict of absurdity, followed by some heavenly ideal plagued by apathy, and the music works for all three of these very different, almost diametrically
Yes.
opposed.
I
kind
can
of,
agree. I can agree with
situations.
that.
While I don't like
What-
Dead Ends as a dungeon, I will absolutely agree the music very much works for the tone they set forth.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, it's music that works for the themes of what's happening more than for the scenery of what you see.
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's kind of rare for dungeon and area musics in video games. So that's worth mentioning, I think.
yep.
And then once we get to the top of this dungeon, a test of your reflexes.
Is this you prey? Then why is it not dead?
So when I first heard this first phase of the final boss, I both loved and hated it.
Same.
I loved it because I mentioned this earlier, the Worm's Tale. You start with that great intro of the Worm's Tale, and I'm like, all right, this is a good way to bring it back, especially since you're riding on
Yes.
Shinryu's back for this.
Exactly.
And then it just goes into a mix of every other final boss theme.
Yeah, I will say that the one weakest part in this, I believe, is the I think it's Revenge Twofold or Heroes. I forget exactly which one.
Heroes, the one that
It's Hero. Yeah, Heroes. Heroes is the weakest part of it.
I mean, I like all of the song in a vacuum,
Yeah.
but all it does is once
but-
again remind everyone that this final boss and the character that this final boss is utterly useless and not even deserving of her own music. She gets everyone else's instead.
Yeah, that's because it's more of a look back than actually getting you in the moment in the fight you are now, which I think is thematically interesting given that on a representative point of view, we are fighting kind of looking at the end, looking at the finality of things without taking care to look at the path you went through, which is why it's thematically relevant to have musics of events you've been through to get there accompanying you. It's your theme more than hers.
I can
But
appreciate.
I will agree that she is certainly no further than under 12.
Yeah, I feel as though this, like, if I were redoing this song probably would have been something separate, like a separate solo duty or a separate something else, and then have a proper two-phase music for an actual final boss.
Speaking
the
Would
of
you
song in a
have
vacuum
bumped
is very
up
good.
Xenos?
speaking
I'm sorry?
of the second phase, I
Yes.
think that so with Hearts Aligned is not Medion's theme. With Hearts Aligned
It's not either.
is your theme.
Yes.
It is your boss theme.
Which once again
Yeah, exactly.
throws into
You are
it the...
fighting Meteon, and both phases' themes are yours.
Yeah, but that just once again proves that, once again, Necron, no matter how cute she is this time around, is a useless extension of a story. She didn't, like, Anyway, moving on. It just once again goes to show that the final boss wasn't allowed to have a musical identity or identity of her own at all anyway. Which really cheapened the experience.
Yeah, because it's clearly thematically driven, and the character itself has no importance. How could it have an importance in 4 levels worth of existence?
Yeah. But in a vacuum.
In a vacuum, this is a great
which
song.
Which is where you are,
Yeah,
kinda.
With Hearts Aligned, it's fantastic. I blast that in my car, like.
I think the theme's introduction would have been 10 times better if they didn't go one step too anime for me and we cut out the light the way line.
If they didn't do the light the way line and they just did the praying, like, that would be like, it did feel a bit, light the way did feel a bit weird. But
it's cheesy.
The call back to the 2.0 trailer to the end of an era.
Yeah, to end of an era, yes.
Like, that's
very good. I'm just talking about the light away line, not the prayer sequence.
Yeah. But it uses the footfalls music as well as
and Maker's Ruin.
Maker's Ruin, which is like
the beginning and the end.
From Ultima, like fighting Ultima, your first boss of like that is your theme of like your triumphant like fighting against it. That is like tying it in with this. Beautiful. It's fantastic. And then we get into a solo duty that I think we all felt at least a decent bit of catharsis from.
A test of your reflexes.
I have you.
Also in the category of probably should have somehow been a real final boss. This was a really...
the fact that we ended him one-on-one.
I like the fact that it ended with him one-on-one, but I feel like they could have done it after him as a final boss and still had as much impact.
Yeah.
Like,
million different ways it could have gone, but it was always going to end in this.
Regardless.
If you told me before the game released that the character they would save the most would be Xenos, I wouldn't have believed anyone telling me that. Because at the end of Shadowbringers, with him appearing every single patch to bother you for like 10 minutes too many, it was... Xenos was plummeting in popularity real hard.
Understandably.
Basically, he started really strong in Stormblood. Then we got another character that was latched onto the dead Xenos, essentially. And it wasn't good before, I would say, the return to Galmald.
Yeah. And then the dinner scene happened, and...
I wouldn't say they saved him, but I definitely tolerated him a lot more. I think he overstayed his welcome, maybe probably, like... I liked his arc in Stormblood, and they probably could have just checked that one off and left it that way. Much like how Emmett Selk, once we got his goodbye, that was a very good goodbye for him.
Exactly. But he certainly got a better post-goodbye than Emmett did.
I would agree with that for sure. And this duel was really, really cool.
Yes. Especially because it, like, the fact that it did call back to Shinryu, but it also, through that, called back to all of the primals you faced before now. plus Xenos. Like, finally.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. It's good.
I will tell you, though, I love the fact that the fight is technically optional, and I say technically with like 84 asterisks, because you can't complete the thing without it. I'm going to do a New Game Plus. I'm just going to strand him there. I'm not going to take the
Yes.
duel. I'm just going to be like, you could just...
Fight me, coward. You can't make me. Tap, tap, tap.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be like,
I mean,
you
and
can
the
just
thing
chill
is-
out here in space. I'm done with you. We out. Peace. Later.
And the thing is that he literally cannot get back.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, you did this to yourself, buddy. I have no reason to fight you. You just get to live here now. Goodbye. I'm out of here. That's what I'm going to do in a
Yeah.
New Game Plus, just to shove it in his face.
Yeah,
Though I would miss out on a really good piece of music if I did.
Exactly. And I'm happy that the end of the end is just, let's just fight and have fun. That's what you're here for anyway, aren't you?
Yeah. It does. So, the most anime moment.
I'm a black mage. I checked on a level 90 dummy. I literally do 1 damage when I direct crit with my staff. How did I punch him to death? And to be clear,
Dynamis.
that is less damage than an astrologian who hits for 5 damage on the dummy with an auto attack,
Oh my god.
or a culinarian who hits for like 54.
What?
Yes! Culinarians has twice as much strength as a black mage.
Oh my god, that's wonderful.
I love it.
Dynamis, son.
I am Captain Noodle Arms.
Yeah, that was a real Nanomachine Sun sort of moment, just not done nearly as well as Persona 4 Royal. Persona 5 Royal,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Yeah. Which is also a reference back to anime Crow Zero.
Anyway, so yeah, we have that. We have the ending and credits music, which is beautiful.
Pandemonium?
I'm sorry?
Well, let's start with
Pandemonium?
Smileton
Oh, okay.
first.
Okay, Smileton.
That
Smileton's
came before.
fine. That is a fine piece of music. It's bouncy, it's goofy, it's everything that I expect out of the Loporits in a relatively short burst, and I'm not spending hours there for no reason. So, you know.
And
It is the only track after the end of the main scenario that is part of the Flow or Footfalls family.
Oh.
Because it is a Footfalls remix.
And we are not talking about the other one because the other thing has been spoken about before. Probably.
Oh,
on
I'm
the
going to
podcast.
talk about it. You
It's
are wrong.
just Johnny's escape.
It's just escape again. It's just escape again. It's we're just back here. The second that guitar started going, I'm like, really? They're gonna keep tormenting me with this song? You couldn't do Heartless or something?
It will never end.
They will never stop haunting me. I've called this the worst song in all of FF14 before. I will call it that again. I am moving on. That is the end of the rant. I just wanted to bring up that they brought it back just to taunt me.
Yes. They were like, Galen still pay it.
And on to the
Good.
3 themes
Put
that
that
are
song.
great to hear the first few times, and then pretty much never again.
Oh.
I
Da,
Kind
of.
da,
So,
da,
so, so,
da, 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 da.
You're both doing it. Anyway,
Yes.
man, 1 ran is bad enough when it comes to this stuff, but 2? Yikes. Anyway, Pandemonium has some really bad raid music. Like, I didn't really like the first bit all that much. It felt too much like a dirge. It was very kind of like plotting. The fact that they play it for
is.
3
It's
bosses.
really a track that gets to you when you are running the bosses every week.
Oh my
Mhm.
god! Like if it, like I said, it works the first time through. Like
Yes, I
the first time
appreciate what
through,
it tries
it's
to
like
do.
yeah, it's a like creepy dungeon theme. Like great.
Yes.
I mean, and then we get to Here Be Lions, and it's just like, oh, huh, this is fun. And
Hicks und Leoness, as far as I'm concerned, was literally them going, wait, we don't have a banger to add to the next Primals concert.
yeah,
Quick, let's write one.
I'm not sure they succeeded. It's okay. It's okay. I wouldn't qualify it as bagger. It's tolerable, but it's okay.
I
It's
think
I
that
will say-
it's definitely going to be a better prog experience to be listening to that rather than the previous one.
I
that
gotta
did
be
all
honest,
three
I'm
previous-
probably gonna do what I did before and just strip it out and play some Dynasty Warriors music.
I also have
I-
music playing on the side.
Yeah.
I will say, though, since the official lyrics have been released, the fact that it opens with wild shrieks instead of wild freaks, my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this song gets a real 6 out of 10 for me. This is I have a hard time forming an opinion of it.
I just really
put
like that I can, even for the track for the 3 previous trials, raids, I still say with the choir, Pandemonium, at the relevant times.
That is
Nice.
the fun part.
Nice.
Yes.
And then we get on to the patch.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we already covered PvP. Map and Falls?
Yeah. Just a solid, like, walking in jungle exploratory theme that is a remix of Divine Words from Babner.
Yeah,
AKA
it
not
has an
Kakariko.
adventure. It has an adventure dungeon feel
It
that's pretty much on the level of Sastasha Hard.
Yeah, it's gameplay wise, it's just redoing Drowned City of Scala with a better song, but they even say that in story, but there's nothing wrong with doing that one right. This is a good dungeon.
Yeah.
This is good music.
Yes.
It's got cool vibe to it. I kind of wish they
I
explained
will certainly not complain when I get it in Roulette Expert.
Yeah. I kind of wish they would, I kind of wish they'd explain why some of them get FF7 text boxes, because there does not appear to be an FF7 reference, so I feel like I'm missing something.
I don't know. I don't know if what the technology is about and stuff like that, but I mean, it's probably something that Creature has picked up along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems to be what they were implying. And then we go from bad raid music to really good raid music. Oh, thank goodness for the Alliance raid.
The area theme that they use for Omphalos is a gorgeous, just
It's very pretty.
And it's an AR remix, which is a pretty good take, honestly, because that's plot threads that have been there since then.
Yep.
and I do I think that if they are going about it this way and handling the plot threads shown to us, that we still have to look at, I think that this is going to be a great patch set.
Yes.
I hope so.
It's certainly starting strong.
It definitely starts strong. I liked story-wise what I played better than everything that wasn't Garlemald in Endwalker. Or everything after, better than everything after Garlemald, let's say that, because I did like the opening.
For Pilgrimage, which is the actual raid theme for when you walk in from one encounter to the next, I just wrote in my notes in all caps, "Is this heavenly enough yet?"
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being on the nose as long as it's, on point.
Exactly.
It was.
And
Yes.
it works.
Yep, I definitely felt good about that one.
We
Radiant.
are still at that point in the mindset, hey, Heidelin's dead by your hand. We're in charge now. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have at the end...
Well,
Radiance
first. Because we gotta get our Corpse Hall remixes.
Oh my god, I was so
it just
surprised by that.
compounds on those Our Robot vibes. I'm down for it.
Yeah.
It was really cool to hear this theme. I was like, I I heard the motif and I was like, no way.
Yeah, I actually had trouble placing it because I don't, even though I have the Sleipnir mount, I don't actually tend to listen to the song for that long, especially since the Corpse Hall itself is a really meandering piece of music. It's got parts I really like, but it's not as cohesive as I'd like. This one is a lot more cohesive, and that part of the Corpse Hall, like when I was actually doing the fight, I'm like, wait a minute, I know this song. Why do I know this song? And I think it was actually you, Zeral. It was like, Corpse Hall. I'm like, oh, right, Odin. Yeah, okay.
I was like, I said, it's Odin, and you're like, oh, Corpse Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also took me a moment, but for my excuse, I have been playing since AR. So it sends me even way back. But I'm okay with that trade.
It was a great way to basically give that musical fan service while also just enjoying it.
Yeah, it's Corpse Hall without the pressure.
Yeah. It's just a really fun track in every sense of the term. It's fun to listen to. It's fun in context. It's fun. It's meant to be fun, and it acts that way.
Honestly, given that all of the bosses look like they're having the time of your life, just punching you through portals and stuff.
Right?
The boss design in this raid is so good.
It's so good. Why did we have
good.
this boss design for Pandemonium? Can we trade? Can we trade? Let Pandemonium be the Alliance raid and just let that be something I don't do all that often, and let these guys, like, harder version of them be the Savage fights? That'd be great.
No, because then that would do double duty between those demonic inspirations and the one in the Heavensward 24-man raid.
We'll say that is it is very interesting that
right, like this game has a problem repeating itself.
I will say that.
Okay, first of all, how dare you?
Before we get into a mini argument, I think that it's very interesting how the normal raid / savage raid is more of like a purgatory demonic theme, while our alliance raid is angelic heavenly.
Yeah, exactly. It balances out.
It's a nice balance, but I gotta be honest. If they're gonna go purgatory, devil, hell, like, can we get the heavy metal version of this, please?
Please.
Can we get something with a little more energy?
Speaking of nice balances, though.
Oh my god! In the
balance. Transition was too good not to take.
I get it.
So somebody said Lynn when I was in my first run of this, and I was like, and now I can't unhear it.
What?
Lynn, Persona 5, Lynn. The singer for a bunch of the music in it.
Oh,
I also heard it was co-written with Ryo Furukawa. But again, just the source from a video that analyzed this track.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I think that this is a fantastic way to end the raid.
Yeah, it's a very cool song.
It is excellent.
Good energy, good fun vibe. Again, where was at least this music, even this level of writing in Pandemonium? Can we?
Where was this where was this level of music and writing? Like I think that comparing, like, having this as the first comeback of the Alliance raid, in comparison to where we came from, this is head and shoulders, if not more, above.
Oh yeah, it's
even though, like, we got Nier, like, Nier has great music, but we, like, the raid itself was
No, let's not get sidetracked, especially when talking about an excellent music.
I will say that we can talk about Nier in one bit, and that they released a pod mount that plays the Weight of the World remix used in the 9S fight.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love this. This makes me so happy inside.
It was a great thing for them to do.
Yeah.
Also, the hitbox is weird in that when you're on the mount, you have a targeting circle that's bigger than even when you're on the lunar whale.
I was not aware of that. That's amazing.
That's actually hilarious.
Yes. But back to the In the Balance again. I do have one thing, is that for all the talk we have about how a third of the track, well, 2/3 of the tracks are reprises of existing tracks and so on.
Or motif plays.
I almost disappointed this track isn't more like Ulda's theme. Because there are
this
certainly
I
some
thought this
things
is
you
a
can see.
remix of To the
but-
Sun.
Of what?
To the Sun. I think I remember
To the
here
Sun.
like
Which
seeing
one is this?
the Thanalan Day theme.
No. Possibly, but given that it's the guardian divinity of Ulda, that's why I'm saying about Ulda specifically, because that's
I do think that
something that
I
should have been there more in your face.
I think that it could have, but what we got, I mean,
Yes, what we got was excellent. There's no question about that. It seems that they focus more on the sense of duality of Naldfall, which is a pretty good angle to take as well. You can feel it in every single part of the song. The lyrics, the pace, all of it is two-faced, like even the mechanics you get in your face.
6.1 like gave us a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, if you look back, a lot of the greatest songs in the game came from patch content, so some nice things to look forward to on every angle but the trials, because that's obviously going to be FF4 remixes.
I'm okay with that. Can we talk about that for a second? Like, hello,
Sure.
probably kind of Golbez, and then hello, Cognazo complaining out of a crystal. I recognize him immediately. I'm like, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're going into the void, and we're taking FF4 with us.
We're finally back to FF4 after this weird detour into FF9 Necron land. Yay!
You miss the Loporrit so much.
But there is like, if this is if 6.1 is the quality that we're looking forward to, I am extremely excited for what we're going to be seeing in the future.
Exactly.
Same.
And
I'd be
maybe
more than willing to come back and talk about 0.2 and 0.3 on a future thing.
Even before that, 6.15, we may have some interesting things.
Oh, actually, literally 2 days from now, we're going to get whatever they're gonna do for Dragon Song's Reprise.
Yes. That's going to be interesting. Hildebrand could be interesting as well. There's lots of angles.
Because I think that Soken could absolutely find a way to do something that is completely off-brand for Ultimates.
Yes.
Because the Ultimates are normally a bunch of either Primal sequences or Eorzean Symphony tracks. If they did something like bigger than that.
Yeah, and since that encounter in particular had a lot of time in the oven.
Like, Soken could have come up with something crazy.
I'm interested to hear what happens there. That would be very intriguing.
Overall, there's work to do a conclusion for an MMO story that didn't necessarily land in all of the spots, but
the spots that it did land in.
Yeah, and even the attempt to do something like that is something I respect tremendously, and that still leaves us looking forward to so much.
Oh, yeah.
And overall, to give a general rating of the soundtrack, I think it's in an interesting spot where, personally, the highs haven't beaten some of my favorite tracks of the game. We don't have a Return to Oblivion or a To the Edge or a Rise or something that works with me that much. But on average,
A lot of the tracks that hit.
No, it's even more than that, is that there's almost no bad track. Even the field themes, the city themes, the story themes, everything is at this really, really high standard for me that I really love.
Soken was running on all cylinders.
I'm not sure I necessarily agree with no bad tracks. I mentioned...
I figured you would.
Yeah, I mentioned Pandemonium and then Ultima Thule. Those are two songs that I could go my whole life without ever listening to again. For the most part, I am inclined to agree. The average quality of music is exceedingly high. And yeah, there's going to be some that come into being some of my all-time favorites. I mentioned Endcaller, Zodiark's theme. I mentioned Finality, the regular dungeon boss theme. That's up there with Triumph from Stormblood for me. There's some absolute winners in this one for me. And yeah, there's the overall quality of music is higher than probably it's ever been, including a new mount theme that I really like and a new inn theme that doesn't drive me up a wall. Two things that we desperately needed.
I personally think that if they put the amount of care if Soken puts the amount of care and Soken and the music team, if they put the amount of care that they put into this previous patch and put it into 6.2, like, it could possibly redeem Pandemonium's music, first of all. And second of all, I'm excited to see what they do with FF4 music just in general around.
How and why would it redeem Pandemonium's music? I'm not calling the whole soundtrack out because one song is bad, but I'm also not going to pretend that song isn't bad.
It's because of the fact that
I'm not going to agree with the fact the song is bad.
It's the fact that 6.2 is going to be our next raid patch.
Yes, of course.
And here's hoping it has better music than the prior one.
That is what I mean.
Okay, thank you. That makes more sense.
I think that overall, the high highs definitely like bring up the average and land this, like, I don't want to say it's equal to Shadowbringers, but Shadowbringers just had a very well-rounded, almost all Oops All Bangers.
I actually disagree. Like, I have the same opinion you have, but the other way around, where Shadowbringers were the highest of any main scenario patch, or lack of patch, for me, but there were some stinkers.
The thing is that we haven't seen what the patches hold for us yet for Endwalker, so
which is why I'm comparing without taking the patches into account.
I will definitely reserve my judgment of whether the soundtrack completely exceeds, but I think that Endwalker has done a wonderful job in what it did with its music.
It's certainly something to look forward to and to look back on.
I'm excited to get back to it with my character that I'm bringing up.
And with that, we just spent way too long talking about this game. Let's go talk about some other ones. Music Arcade now playing.
Right, so given that I was very busy, but that I finally managed to an extended weekend to play some video games for a change, besides like Genshin and FF14, I started Rune Factory 5.
Oh, nice.
And the soundtrack is exactly what you'd expect from a comfy farming game.
Okay.
With a bit more of an edge on the dungeons, of course, because essentially if you compare it to Stardew, in Stardew Valley, you go to the dungeons and the mines to help your farm. In Rune Factory, you farm to help you in the dungeon. But yeah, it's nothing that really stays in my head, but it's inoffensive, and really that's all I can ask for.
Fair enough.
And what have any of you two been playing?
I've been continuing Bravely Default 2, and it's, I had a really, really, really good dungeon theme for an airship dungeon I did that was really fun.
Ooh.
That was good music. Unfortunately, I couldn't keep the airship much as I wanted to. I really need an airship in this game.
Yes, the Dragon Guard 3 problem.
Yeah. No, Revo is continuing to do a very good job with the music. There were also a couple of special bosses with a cool theme. Still not comparable to the Asterisk theme from the first Bravely Default, but there's only so much you could do to compare to that.
Yeah, it's a very good, a high bar.
It's an exceedingly high bar. It just by nature of the fact that it's Bravely Default, I'm always going to compare Asterisk music to that song, and I'd be surprised if anything ever wins. And yeah, that's about all I got. The really cool airship theme is about what I got for you.
For me, I have been on and off with Hollow Knight recently.
Ooh.
I have been trying to get through stuff, trying to learn how to pogo, because pogoing is one of the best things you can do for damage in the game. Basically,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
trying to
and mobility.
trying to jump over things and using your weapon to bounce off of them in order to get height advantage or get over some obstacles. It's cool. But I often listen to a few tracks just off to the side later in the game because I haven't gotten there yet. Troop Master Grimm plus Nightmare King. Those two themes are just, they play up these circusy sort of dark carnival creepy aspects, and it's cool.
Yeah, it really sets up a nice atmosphere.
Yeah. I do think that it would be a cool thing to do a roguelike, Metroidvania, episode with you guys, because I have a couple things from.
These are two very different genres.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, brain. I'm trying to remember exactly which genre Hollow Knight's.
It's a Metroidvania.
Metroidvania. Okay. And then also Dead Cells I have played a lot.
No. It's a roguelike Metroidvania.
Yeah.
There we go.
So both
so
are
is Rogue
ones
Legacy.
Like.
Yeah. I really like the Dead Cells soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. So I think that would be
some
cool
very
to be
good
able to.
guitars.
It would be.
I
cool.
think you'd like it, Galen.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Looks at my looks at my amount of channel points and my ability to pick a game, like me being at literally 5% of the way.
Alright, there's also one thing, not a game I've played per se, but given that I had a lot of travel time to cover, I actually went back and made myself a new Spotify account, which immediately understood the kind of notification I wanted. Not perfectly, but there's a lot of video game stuff. So it led me to discover a couple of things, like Hideki Naganuma's song I Didn't Know, which is always a nice thing to stumble upon.
Yep.
So in my search and recommendations, I got to the Cyber Grind track by Meganeko for the video game Ultra Kill, which is kind of tempting me to actually try the game out. So maybe more from that game in a future now playing, because that is some very good music.
Awesome. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As a reminder, you can check out the music we talked about today on the Endwalker soundtrack, and you can get in touch with us via email at music.arcade.podcast@gmail.com, or just stop by my Discord. Thank you guys again, and we will see y'all next week.
See you later.
Goodbye.